The glass shattered against the marble floor before Declan Sullivan even knew he had thrown it. Across the long hallway, Elena Harper froze her hand still resting on the polished brass doorknob, her coat only halfway onto her shoulders. I have a date tonight. 4 simple words. 4 words from the quiet maid who had served in his mansion for 2 years without so much as raising her voice. And now the most feared mafia boss in Milan stood breathing hard in his own doorway. Knuckles' white jaw locked his entire carefully built world tilting sideways. Before we go any further, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Stay with me all the way to the end of this story and drop the name of the city you're watching from down in the comments. I always love seeing just how far our stories travel around the world. Declan Sullivan did not remember picking up the crystal tumbler. He did not remember squeezing it. He only remembered the sound, that sharp, clean crack of glass against stone, and the way Elena's shoulders jumped an inch at the noise. She turned slowly. Her dark hair was pulled back in the same simple twist she always wore on Saturdays, and she was holding that old gray coat of hers as if nothing in the world had just happened. As if she had not 90 seconds earlier stood in his kitchen, laughing softly into her phone and said those 4 words that had struck him like a bullet to the chest. Mr. Sullivan. Her voice was steady, careful. Are you all right, sir? He did not answer right away. He could not, because if he opened his mouth in that moment, he was afraid of what would come out. I dropped the glass, he said finally, flat, controlled. A lie so obvious he almost winced at it. Elena's eyes flicked down to the shards, then back up to his face. She had worked for him long enough to know the difference between a man who dropped a glass and a man who crushed one. She said nothing. I'll clean it, sir. No. The word came out sharper than he intended. Elena's eyebrows lifted just a fraction. Declan forced his hand to unclench. Leave it, he said softer. I'll have someone else take care of it. You were on your way out. Yes, sir. Where are you going? She paused. He saw the pause. He cataloged it the way he cataloged every small thing about her, the half-second hesitation, the way her thumb pressed into the leather strap of her purse. I have some errands to run, she said. Errands? Yes, sir. At 7 o'clock in the evening. Elena looked at him, then really looked at him, and Declan Sullivan, who had stared down senators, rival bosses, and men with guns pointed at his forehead, felt his ribcage tighten like a fist. I also have dinner plans, she said carefully. With who? The question was out before he could stop it, and the moment it landed, Declan knew he had given himself away. A boss did not ask his maid who she was having dinner with. A boss did not ask his maid anything at all. That was the whole architecture of the thing. That was the wall he had spent 2 years carefully building, brick by brick, between what he felt and what he showed. Elena's lips parted slightly. She studied him for one long, quiet moment. A friend, she said. A friend. Yes, sir. A man, Mr. Sullivan. Answer the question, Elena. He hurt himself, and he hated himself, but he could not stop. Something was happening inside his chest that he had not felt in 20 years, not since he was a boy, and it was crowding out everything else, the training, the cold command, the mask. Yes, she said quietly, a man. And where is he taking you? Sir, with respect. Where, Elena? She straightened her shoulders. A restaurant in the city, that's all. Which one? Does it matter, sir? It matters to me. The words hung in the air between them, heavy and unguarded, and for a single heartbeat, Declan saw something move behind Elena's eyes. Surprise. Confusion. Something else. Something he did not dare to name. Then her face smoothed over into that polite, professional stillness she wore like armor. I'll be back before midnight, she said. The house will be in order. Maria will cover the evening service. I've already spoken to her. That is not what I asked you. I know, sir. And with that calm, respectful defiance, Elena Harper turned, opened the door, and walked out of the mansion. The heavy oak closed behind her with a soft thud that sounded to Declan like the slamming of a vault. He stood in the hallway for a long time. Thomas found him there 10 minutes later, still staring at the broken glass, still in the same unmoving position. Thomas was Declan's oldest man, 58, gray at the temples, one crooked scar running from his left ear to his jaw. He had been with the Sullivan family since Declan's father ran it, and he had seen his boss in every possible state. Furious, bleeding, grieving, triumphant. He had never seen him like this. Boss? Declan did not turn. Who is he? Who is who, sir? The man Elena is having dinner with. Tonight. Find out. Tomas blinked once slowly. Sir, that's her private business. Tomas. I'm only saying, find out. The older man was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed the way a father sighs at a son about to do something stupid. Declan. It was the use of his name, just his name, not sir, not boss, that made Declan finally look at him. Tomas had earned that right a long time ago, and he used it only when he meant it. What are you doing, son? Nothing. You're breaking glass over a woman who brings you coffee. She doesn't bring me coffee. You know what I mean. Declan turned away. He walked into his study and Tomas followed, shutting the door behind them. The study smelled of old books and cold smoke. Declan moved to the window and looked out over the dark gardens, and he said nothing for a long time. 2 years, he said finally. 2 years what, boss? 2 years she's been in this house. 2 years I have not said 10 personal words to her. Do you know why? I have some idea. Because I am not a stupid man, Tomas. Because I know what this life does to the people it touches. Because every single woman I have ever let close to me has either been used against me or buried because of me or walked away before the sun came up. I learned. A long time ago I learned. Yes, sir. And I decided. The day she came to this house, I decided she would be safe. From this, from me. She would come in, do her work, leave, go home, live her life. She would never know what He stopped. He laughed once short and bitter at his own face in the dark window. She would never know. And now she has a date, Tomas said gently. And now she has a date. And you cannot stand it. Declan did not answer. His reflection in the glass was the reflection of a man he did not recognize. A man whose mask had slipped. Boss? Tomas's voice was careful, the way men speak to wounded animals. If you have been in love with that girl for 2 years and never told her that is your choice, that is a thing you can live with. But if you start asking me to follow her to dig into who she eats dinner with Declan, that is not love. That is the beginning of something ugly, and you know it. I'm not asking you to follow her. You just did. I asked you to find out his name. Same thing, boss. You know it's the same thing. Declan turned from the window. His eyes were very dark. Then don't find out, he said. Forget I asked. Leave me. Tomas hesitated at the door. Boss. What? If she matters to you, tell her, like a man. Don't do this other thing. Don't become the kind of man she would be right to run from. And he left. Declan stood alone in the study for a very long time. Elena did not come back at midnight. She came back at 11. The door opened quietly because Elena always did everything quietly, and Declan, who had been sitting in the armchair by the coal fireplace for 3 hours pretending to read the same page of the same book, heard every step. Her heels on the marble, the soft click of the coat closet, the sound of her setting her keys in the little porcelain dish by the mirror the way she always did. He got up. He told himself not to. He got up anyway. Elena. She turned in the hallway and she did not look startled, which meant she had known he was awake, which meant she had expected this. Her cheeks were pink from the cold. She was holding one small paper bag. Mr. Sullivan, you're still up. I was reading. I see. How was your dinner? She tilted her head just slightly. It was fine, sir. Fine. Yes, sir. Will you see him again? Elena set the paper bag down on the side table. She took off her coat and hung it with very deliberate, unhurried movements. And then she faced him fully, and Declan realized for the first time all evening that she was not afraid of him. She had never been afraid of him. In 2 years, not once. Mr. Sullivan, she said, why are you asking? Oh, I'm your employer. That's not why you're asking. Excuse me. You've been my employer for 2 years, sir. You have never once asked me about my weekend. You have never once asked me if I have family, if I'm tired, if my mother is still sick in Naples. And tonight, twice in one evening, you are asking me about a man. Your mother is sick, Elena laughed. It was a small, tired, disbelieving sound, and it went straight through him. Good night, Mr. Sullivan. Elena. She was already walking past him toward the back staircase that led to the staff quarters. He caught her elbow, not hard, barely more than a brush, but enough to stop her. She looked down at his hand on her arm and then up at his face, and Declan felt the entire mansion around them go very, very silent. Let go of my arm, sir. He did, immediately. I'm sorry. I'm going to bed. Will you see him again? Mr. Sullivan. Yes or no, Elena? I'm asking you plainly. Will you see that man again? She looked at him for a long, long moment. Her eyes were not angry. That was the worst part. They were simply searching his face, trying to read something she had never been allowed to read before. Yes, she said finally. I think I will. The word landed like a stone in deep water. Declan nodded once slowly. He felt the nod as if it were happening to someone else's body. I see. Good night, sir. Is he good to you? She paused on the second step of the staircase. She did not turn around. I don't know him well enough to say yet, Mr. Sullivan. But you want to know him. I want to know someone, she said softly. Yes. And she went upstairs. And Declan Sullivan, the most feared man in Milan, the man who had once ordered an execution without lifting his coffee cup, stood alone at the bottom of his own staircase and felt something in his chest crack. He did not sleep that night. He sat in the armchair. He watched the hours crawl across the clock above the mantel. He listened to the house breathe around him, and somewhere above his head, 3 floors up, in a small room she had lived in for 2 years, Elena Harper slept or did not sleep. He did not know. And every time he shut his eyes, he saw her face on that staircase. I want to know someone. Not I want to know him. She had not said him, she had said someone. 2 years, Declan thought. 2 years she has lived in my house. 2 years I have watched her set a vase of fresh flowers on the breakfast table every Monday. Because I mentioned once offhand that my mother used to do that. 2 years I have watched her remember that I take my coffee without sugar, that I hate cilantro, that I do not like to be spoken to before 9 in the morning. 2 years she has folded my life around her small, quiet hands, and I have said nothing. I have said nothing. At 4 in the morning, he went to his desk. He pulled out a pen and a piece of stationery with the Sullivan crest at the top. He began to write. Elena. He stopped. He crumpled the page. He began again. Elena, Amne, E. He crumpled that too. By 5, there were 11 crumpled letters in the fire, and Declan Sullivan, who had negotiated the fate of empires, could not find a single sentence honest enough to send to his own maid. He finally set the pen down. He stared at the ashes of his own cowardice, and he said out loud to no one, I have wasted 2 years. Morning came the way mornings always came in the Sullivan house, silent, well-ordered, cold. Elena was already in the kitchen when he came down the stairs in her gray uniform, her hair pulled back, her sleeves rolled neatly to the elbows. She was squeezing oranges for the juice the way she did every morning. She did not look up when he walked in. Good morning, Mr. Sullivan. Good morning, Elena. Your coffee is on the table, sir. No sugar. Thank you. He sat. He did not drink it. He watched her back. Elena. Yes, sir. I owe you an apology. The squeezing stopped. She did not turn around. For what, sir? For last night, for asking questions I had no right to ask, for grabbing your arm. It was out of line. It will not happen again. A very long silence, then thank you, Mr. Sullivan. I would like, he said carefully, to ask you something else now. Something I should have asked a long time ago. And you may tell me to mind my own business, and I will accept that. She turned then. Slowly, she wiped her hands on a towel and she faced him across the kitchen, and Declan had the strange feeling that he had been waiting 2 years to have this exact conversation, and now that it was here, he did not know a single word of it. What is it, sir? Your mother, he said. In Naples, is she still sick? Elena's face did not move for a moment, and then slowly something softened around her eyes, a tiny thing. A thing almost no one else would have seen, but he saw it. Yes, sir, she is. What is she sick with? Her heart. How bad? The doctors say a year, maybe 2. Are you able to see her? When I can get away, sir. When was the last time? 14 months ago. The kitchen was very quiet. Declan looked at the woman in front of him, and he thought 14 months. 14 months she has walked around my house carrying that, and I did not ask. I did not ask. Elena. Yes, sir. You will go to Naples this weekend. I will arrange the car and the ticket. You will stay as long as you need. Your position here will be waiting for you with full pay whenever you come back. Her lips parted. For the first time since he had known her, Elena Harper looked stunned. Sir, please don't argue with me. It is the only decent thing I have done in this kitchen in 2 years. Mr. Sullivan, and Elena, Yes, sir. He stood up. He looked at her across the long kitchen, across all those quiet mornings, across every cup of coffee she had ever placed in front of him without a word. The man you had dinner with last night. Yes, sir. If he is good to you, truly good to you, then I am glad for you. I mean that. She stared at him. Sir. But if he is not, his voice did not rise. It did not need to. If he hurts you, if he disrespects you, if he so much as raises his voice to you, Elena, I would like you to tell me. That is all I ask. That is the only thing I ask. Why, Mr. Sullivan? And Declan Sullivan, who had sworn to himself 2 years ago that he would never ever say these words out loud to this woman who had built a wall inside his own chest to keep them from ever crossing. His lips opened his mouth, and the phone on the wall rang. Elena jumped. Declan did not move. The phone rang again, shrill and cutting, and on the third ring, Elena walked past him to answer it, because that was her job. That was what she did. That was the architecture of everything between them. Sullivan residence. She listened. Her face changed. The color went out of it. She turned slowly and held out the receiver to Declan, and her hand was shaking. Sir, she said, it's for you. He says it's urgent. Who is it? He says, Elena whispered, that his name is the man I had dinner with last night. Declan took the receiver from her hand slowly. Elena did not let go right away. For one full heartbeat, their fingers overlapped on the cold plastic, and she was staring into his face with a question he could not answer yet. Go upstairs, Elena. Sir, go upstairs, please. She did not move. She was a woman who followed orders in this house for 2 straight years, and now she stood her ground in a kitchen full of morning light and would not walk away. Is he in trouble? She whispered. Sir, is he in trouble? Elena, tell me. I don't know yet. Go upstairs. Go upstairs. I will come find you when I am finished. I promise you that. The word promise landed somewhere between them. Declan had never made Elena a promise before. Not in 2 years. She let go of the phone, took one step back and then another, and then she turned and walked out of the kitchen with her shoulders straight and her hands trembling. Declan waited until he heard her feet on the staircase. Then he lifted the receiver to his ear, and every soft thing inside him went to stone. Who is this? A man laughed on the other end, a small, confident laugh, the laugh of a man who believed he was holding a good card. Good morning, Mr. Sullivan. I asked you who this is. My name is Marco Rinaldi. I had dinner last night with a very charming young woman. I believe you know her. The name moved through Declan's mind like a blade. Rinaldi. Not a name you forgot. Not a name any man in Milan forgot. The Rinaldi family had bled against the Sullivan family for 30 years, and the last round of that bleeding had ended only 6 months ago with an agreement signed in cold ink. Marco Rinaldi, Declan said softly. You remember. I remember your father, Mr. Rinaldi. I remember your uncle. I remember the funeral I attended out of respect, which is more respect than you or our family ever showed mine. I'm not calling to rake over history, Mr. Sullivan. Then why are you calling? I'm calling, Marco said, to congratulate you. Your maid is a lovely woman, smart, pretty, kind. She speaks of you very warmly, you know, not as a boss, as a man she admires. I thought you should hear that from someone. Say what you came to say, Rinaldi. I intend to see her again. Do you? Tomorrow night, in fact. And the night after that, if she'll have me. I find her enchanting. She is not a piece on your board. Oh, Mr. Sullivan. Marco's voice dropped smooth and cold. Everyone in your house is a piece on my board. That is the whole point of this phone call. I wanted you to understand that a woman has been living 3 floors above your head for 2 years, and you never noticed her, and I noticed her in 10 minutes at a coffee shop. I introduced myself, I asked her name, I learned where she worked. And when I learned well, let us say it made the dinner much more interesting. Declan's free hand closed slowly into a fist at his side. You approached her on purpose. I approached a beautiful woman on purpose. Her employer was a bonus. You used her. I enjoyed her company. There's a difference, and Mr. Sullivan, she enjoyed mine. That is the part that must sting the most. Declan did not speak for a long moment. When he did, his voice had gone very, very quiet, the kind of quiet that had ended men's lives at long tables in rooms far from here. Marco. Yes, Mr. Sullivan? If you touch her, if you take her to a restaurant, if you so much as send her flowers. I will burn the name Rinaldi off the map of this city. Do you understand me? I will do it slowly. I will do it personally. And I will not apologize to anyone when it is done. A silence, then Marco laughed again, softer this time. Good, he said. Good. A Samoan. That is what I wanted to know. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. You have been very helpful. Give my regards to Elena. And the line went dead. Declan stood holding the receiver for a long time. The dial tone hummed in his ear like an insect. When he finally hung up, his hand was shaking, and he hated his hand for shaking. He had just told a Rinaldi that a woman in his house mattered to him. He had said it with his own mouth. He had handed the boy a loaded gun and watched him walk away with it. Tomas. He did not shout. He did not have to. Tomas was already in the doorway the way Tomas always was, as if the old man could hear the shift in air pressure when something went wrong in this house. I heard, boss. All of it. From the word Rinaldi. Tomas, where is Marco Rinaldi staying? Sir, stop. Stop and think. Where is he staying? Declan, listen to me. He called you. He provoked you. He wants you to do exactly what you are about to do. He wants you to put your hand on that girl publicly in front of the whole city so his family has a reason to break the peace. Boss, don't give it to him. Declan turned away from the wall. His eyes were burning. He used her Tomas. Yes. He sat across a table from her and smiled at her and let her believe he was a decent man. And now she is upstairs in her room and she is going to have to hear this from me. She is going to have to learn that the one man who asked her to dinner in the 2 years asked her because of me. Yes, boss. How do I tell her that? With the truth, that's the only way. She will hate me. Maybe. She will think that she is poison, that she has no life of her own, that even her one dinner was a trick. Maybe she will think that, for a little while, and then she will think about who lied to her and who did not, and she will come back around. Will she? Boss? Thomas put a heavy hand on his shoulder. It was the first time he had touched Declan in 10 years. You do not know that woman as well as you think you do. She is stronger than you give her credit for. Go talk to her. Now, before Rinaldi calls her cell phone and gets to her first. And that simple sentence was the thing that moved him. Declan was up the staircase, 2 steps at a time. 3 floors. He had not been to the top floor of his own house in a year and a half. He did not know which door was hers. He stood in the narrow hallway at the top of the stairs like a stranger in his own building, and he had to knock on the first one to ask. A young maid opened it, eyes wide. Sir, Elena's room. 3 down, sir, on the left. He walked the hallway like a man walking toward his own verdict. He stopped at the door. He raised his hand. He lowered it. He raised it again. He knocked. Elena! Silence. Elena, it is me. A pause, then from inside quietly, Come in, Mr. Sullivan. He opened the door. She was sitting on the edge of her small bed. She had not changed out of her uniform. Her hands were folded on her lap the way a child's hands are folded when they are trying very hard to be brave. She looked up at him. He wasn't calling about trouble, she said. Was he? Elena. He was calling about me. Yes. Why? Declan closed the door behind him. He did not sit. There was nowhere to sit that wasn't her bed, and he would not do that to her. Elena, the man you had dinner with last night is named Marco Rinaldi. Her face did not change. The name meant nothing to her. Why would it? She had lived in this house for 2 years, and he had kept her out of every single piece of it on purpose. He is the son, Declan said, of a family that has been at war with mine for 30 years. He did not meet you by accident. He knew where you worked. He found you. He spoke to you because he wanted to reach me. For a long moment, Elena did not move. She did not breathe. Then she said very softly, the coffee shop. What? We met at a coffee shop by the river. He asked if the seat next to me was free. He said he liked my book. Elena. He said I had kind eyes. Elena, stop. He asked about my job. He was so interested. I thought, her voice broke just for a second, and then she clamped her jaw shut and got it back under control. I thought a man was interested in me. For me, a man should be, 1,000 men should be. Don't. Elena, don't do that. She stood up. Her hands were in fists at her sides. Don't say the kind thing. Don't give me the soft speech. Please, Mr. Sullivan, I cannot bear the soft speech from you right now. I'm sorry. Are you? I'm sorry this happened to you. Oh. Are you sorry it happened, or are you sorry it happened because of you? The question hit him hard enough that for a second, he could not answer it honestly. He opened his mouth, he closed it, he tried again. Both, he said. At least that is honest. Elena. 2 years. She was not crying, her eyes were dry and very bright, and that was worse. 2 years in your house, Mr. Sullivan. 2 years I have lived on the 3rd floor. I thought I had a life. I thought I had a quiet, small, private life up here where none of your business touched me. And now I am told that I cannot even have a cup of coffee by the river without it being part of your war. It is not your fault. I know it is not my fault. I know. I am not stupid, sir. I understand exactly whose fault it is. That is also part of the problem. He flinched. He took it. What else, she said. What else, what? What else did he say on the phone? Tell me everything. Do not protect me. I am tired of being protected inside this house by men who only tell me half the story. Declan was quiet for a long moment. Then he told her. He told her all of it. The laugh, the enchanting, the tomorrow night. The threat he himself had made at the end, the stupid, uncontrolled, lovesick threat that had handed Rinaldi the only piece of information the man had come digging for. When he was finished, Elena sat back down on the bed. She pressed her hands to her face. She did not cry. She just breathed. You told him I mattered to you. Yes, in those words. Not in those words, but yes, he knew. He knew before I hung up. Why would you do that? Because I am a fool, Elena. Because I have been a fool for 2 years. She lowered her hands. She looked up at him. Her face was very pale. Mr. Sullivan, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer it like a man, not like a boss. Ask. If I had not gone to dinner with Marco Rinaldi last night, if I had simply told my friend I had a date and gone home alone, would you ever in your whole life have said a single word to me about how you felt? The question lay in the air between them for 3 long seconds. No, she nodded once, a tiny wounded nod. No, she repeated. I didn't think so. Elena. So it took an enemy, it took a man walking up to me in a coffee shop with a plan to make you come upstairs, to make you knock on my door. That is the truth, isn't it? Yes. That is a very hard truth to sit with, Mr. Sullivan. I know. Please leave my room. Elena. Please, I need an hour, 1 hour. I need to sit with this and decide what I am going to do next, and I cannot decide it with you standing in my doorway looking at me like that. He stood there a moment longer. He wanted to say 10 things. He said none of them. He nodded and he turned and he walked out and he closed the door behind him as quietly as a man can close a door. And then he walked down 3 flights of stairs and stood in his own kitchen and put both hands flat on the counter and stared down at his own knuckles for a very long time. Tomas came in behind him. She knows. She knows. And I deserve every single second of what she is doing to me right now. Yes, boss. Don't say yes, boss, when I'm trying to feel sorry for myself, Tomas. Yes, boss. Declan almost laughed. Almost. The sound came out wrong and he had to put his face in his hand for a moment. Tomas, what do I do? About Rinaldi. About her. Tomas poured himself a coffee. He did it slowly the way he did everything, and he took a sip before he answered. You wait, he said. You wait 1 hour like she asked. You do not knock on that door 1 minute early. And then, and this is the hard part, boss, when she comes down those stairs, you let her decide what happens next, not you. Her. And if she decides to leave, then you let her leave. Tomas, you let her leave Declan with a car, with money, with a letter of reference to anywhere in the world she wants to go. You put her on a plane to her mother in Naples, and you never darken her door again, and you do it because you love her, not because she owes you anything. That is what love is, boss. At our age, that is the only thing it is. Declan looked at the old man for a long time, and Rinaldi. Rinaldi is my job, Tomas said quietly. You gave your life to this family for 30 years. You let me handle Rinaldi. You handle the girl. The house ticked around them. Somewhere above their heads, 3 floors up, a door had closed. 40 minutes passed. Then 50. then a full hour. At the 61st minute, Declan heard her footsteps on the staircase. Not hurrying, not slow, steady. The footsteps of a woman who had decided something. He walked to the bottom of the stairs and waited. When Elena came around the landing, she was no longer in her uniform. She was wearing a plain dark dress and flat shoes and a coat over her arm, and she was carrying a single small suitcase. Declan's heart went cold. Elena. Mr. Sullivan, where are you going? She stopped 2 steps above him, at eye level. She had never in 2 years looked at him at eye level before. I'm going to Naples, she said. To my mother, you offered to send me this morning. I am accepting. Yes, of course, I will arrange. I have already booked the train myself, sir. I do not need you to arrange it. Elena, please. I am not leaving because of you. No, I am leaving because I will not be the reason a war restarts in this city. I will not be the woman Marco Rinaldi uses, and I will not stay one night longer in a house where a man watched me for 2 years and said nothing until someone else tried to take me. I need air, Mr. Sullivan. I need my mother. I need to sit by her bed and hold her hand and remember that I am a person, not a chess piece. Do you understand? Yes. When I come back, his breath caught. You are coming back. When I come back, she said, and her voice was steady, but her eyes for the first time were wet. We will have a real conversation, you and I, not a boss and a maid, a man and a woman. And you will tell me plainly and with your whole chest what you wanted to say in the kitchen this morning before that phone rang. And I will decide then what I think of it. Elena, those are my terms, Mr. Sullivan. Take them or do not. But I am leaving this house in 10 minutes either way. He looked at her, and for the first time in his whole life, Declan Sullivan said something without calculating at first. I will wait. Good. Elena, one more thing. Yes, sir. Marco Rinaldi will try to contact you on your phone, at the station, on the train. I want you to promise me you will not answer him. Not one call, not one message. I have already blocked his number, Mr. Sullivan. When did you do that? In the first 10 minutes of my hour. And she stepped past him down the last 2 stairs and walked out the front door of the Sullivan mansion with her small suitcase in her hand and her coat over her arm. And Declan stood at the bottom of the staircase and watched the door close behind her. And somewhere in the distance, down the long gravel drive, he heard a second car start its engine and pull out after hers, Tomas's car carrying Tomas's 2 best men, the ones who would ride the train 3 carriages behind her, all the way to Naples and make absolutely certain that no one named Rinaldi got within 100 feet of Elena Harper on her journey home. She would never know they were there. That Declan thought was what love looked like at 51 years old. He turned finally and walked back into his study, and the moment he closed the door behind him, the private phone on his desk, the one only 6 people in the world had the number for, began to ring. He crossed the room. He picked it up. Yes. Mr. Sullivan. It was not Marco Rinaldi. It was Marco's father, Giovanni. Declan. The 2 men had not spoken in 6 months. The last time they had exchanged words, it had been across a long table in a neutral room with 6 lawyers between them, and they had signed a peace that neither one of them had wanted, but both of them needed. Giovanni Rinaldi's voice on the other end of the line was the voice of a man who had not aged well in those 6 months. Tired, thin, older than the number on his driver's license. I imagine, Giovanni said, that you know why I am calling. Your son. My son. Tell me he called you. Tell me you did not put him up to it. There was a long, heavy pause. Declan, I am 67 years old. My wife is dead. My brother is dead. I signed your peace in good faith, and I have kept every word of it. Do you really believe I would send my only boy to play games with a woman in your kitchen? I don't know what I believe right now, Giovanni. Then believe this. I found out 40 minutes ago. My driver told me. He told me because he was frightened, Declan. He was frightened of what Marco was planning, and he was more frightened of me not knowing than of me knowing. That should tell you something. Declan sat down slowly behind his desk. He pressed his thumb and forefinger against the bridge of his nose. Where is your son right now? In my study, on a chair, without his phone. Giovanni. I have not laid a hand on him, Declan. I am asking for the chance to handle this before you do. He threatened her. He is 26 years old, and he is stupid, and he thinks his blood owes him something. He does not understand what his uncle died for. He does not understand what I signed my name to. I am going to make him understand. Today. Giovanni. Yes. She is on a train to Naples. A silence. I see. Your son will not go near that train. No, he will not. Giovanni, listen to me very carefully because I am saying this exactly once. That woman is under my protection. From this morning until the end of my life, she is under my protection. If anything happens to her, a car follows her, a stranger speaks to her at a cafe, a bouquet of flowers arrives at her mother's house, I will assume it was yours. I will not call you first. I will not ask questions. Do you understand what I am telling you? I understand. Say it back to me. If she is harmed, you will come for my house. Yes. Declan. What? I give you my word. On my wife's grave, my son will not come within a mile of her. Not tomorrow, not next year, not ever. And I will send you something by courier this afternoon to prove it. What are you sending? His passport, his keys, his company card, everything that allows him to move in this city. I am sending it to your house as a gesture. He stays under my roof until I am sure he has become a man I can trust again. That may take a very long time. Declan was quiet for a moment. Giovanni Rinaldi was not a man who did gestures, not toward a Sullivan, not in this lifetime. Giovanni? Yes. Why? Why what? Why are you giving me this? The older man exhaled slowly. For a moment, Declan could hear nothing but the sound of breath on a telephone line. Because I buried my brother 6 months ago, Declan, and I looked at my boy at the funeral and I thought one more dead, one more coffin, one more mother I have to visit. I am tired the way old men get tired. I signed your piece because I wanted to see my grandchildren born not buried. And I will not let my son undo that because he wants to play at being his uncle. I'm sorry about your brother. I know. Giovanni. Yes. The woman. Her name is Elena. She had nothing to do with any of this. I know that now. See that your son understands it. He will. By the end of the day, Declan, he will understand it in his bones. The line clicked. Declan set the phone down slowly and leaned back in his chair, and for a long time he did not move at all. Thomas came in without knocking. He was holding 2 coffees. He set one in front of Declan and sat down in the chair across the desk. Was that who I think it was? Giovanni. And he did not know. His son went rogue. Tomas let out a long breath that he had clearly been holding since the kitchen. Thank God. Yes. So Rinaldi is not the problem anymore. Rinaldi is not the problem anymore. Then what is the look on your face, boss? Declan looked up at him. She is on a train to Naples, Tomas, and I let her walk out that door, and I told her I would wait. And now I am sitting at this desk, and for the first time in 30 years, I do not have a single thing to do. You have things to do. Name one. You have a mother to meet. Declan blinked at him. What? Boss, she is going to sit by her mother's bed for 2 weeks, maybe 3. She is going to come back changed one way or another. And somewhere in those 2 weeks, you are going to decide whether you are a man who sends flowers or a man who gets on a plane or a man who writes a letter. You pick wrong, you lose her. You pick right. I don't know what right is, Tomas. Neither do I, boss. Neither does anyone. That is the point. Declan took a slow sip of his coffee. He looked across the desk at the old man who had known him since he was a boy of 17, wet behind the ears, trembling at his first meeting. Tomas. Yes. What would you do, in my place, at my age? Tomas thought for a long time. I would go, he said finally. Not tomorrow, not next week. I would give her the first days with her mother alone sacred. And then on the 10th day or so, I would get on a train myself and I would show up at the door of that small house in Naples with my hat in my hand, and I would not say anything clever. I would say, Elena, I have come to sit with your mother if she will have me. That is all. No speech, no flowers. Just I came. And if she sends me away, then you go, boss, with grace, and you let her come to you on her own time. Declan nodded slowly. He did not say anything for a while. Then Tomas. Yes. Book the train for 9 days from now, one seat, no bodyguards, no cars, just me. Boss, do not argue with me. I was not going to argue, boss. I was going to say it is the first good decision you have made in 2 years. The days after that moved in a strange kind of slowness. The house, which had always run like a clock, began to tick differently without Elena in it. Declan noticed things he had never noticed before. He noticed that the flowers on the breakfast table were not replaced on Monday morning because the woman who replaced them was 900 kilometers to the south. He noticed that the coffee Maria brought him was made exactly to specification, no sugar, the right temperature, and yet it tasted wrong because it was not the same cup and the same hand had not set it down in front of him. He noticed that the hallway on the third floor was very, very quiet. On the second day he went up there. He did not go into her room. He stood in the hallway outside her door the way a man stands outside a church he has not entered in a long time. Then he went back down and he did not go up again. On the fourth day, a courier came to the door with a small leather pouch from the Rinaldi estate. Inside was Marco's passport, his identification, a bank card cut in half, and a folded letter in Giovanni's careful hand. "It is done," the letter said. You will not hear the Rinaldi name in this matter again. You have my word." Declan read it twice and put it in a drawer. On the fifth day, Tomas brought him a report. Elena had arrived in Naples. She had been met at the station by her cousin, a schoolteacher named Paola, a kind-looking woman in her 40s. They had driven to a small house in a quiet neighborhood where her mother, Maria Elena Harper, was living under the care of a home nurse. Elena had been in the house for 4 days. She had not left once. She had not placed a single call to anyone in Milan. "She is well," Tomas said carefully. "As far as our men can tell, her mother is not well, but Elena is eating, she is sleeping, she is reading books in the garden. That is all we know, boss." "Good. Good. That is what I wanted, for her to rest." "Yes, boss." But at night alone in his study, Declan found that he could not rest. He sat with a glass of whiskey that he did not drink, and he turned the problem of himself over and over in his hands. 2 years. He kept coming back to those 2 years. 2 years of a woman in his house, and he had spent every one of them lying to himself about why he would not speak to her. He had told himself it was because of the danger, because of the life, because of the enemies at the gates. But he saw now with the clear and terrible vision a man gets when he is 51 and alone in a big house at 3 in the morning. He saw that the danger had only ever been half the truth. The other half was that he was afraid. He was afraid of a quiet woman with flour on her hands and a small, soft voice. He who had stared down governments. He had been afraid of her because she could say no. Because no man with a gun could say no to him. Not really, but she could. She could say no, and she had, and the world had not ended, but something inside him had cracked open, and what had come spilling out was a tenderness he did not know he still owned. He thought about his own father. His father had died at 62 of a heart that simply stopped one afternoon in a leather chair in this very room. His father had loved his mother for 41 years and had never once to Declan's knowledge told her so in plain words. His father had said it in other ways, with houses, with jewelry, with empires, but not with words. And his mother, God rest her, had died 3 years after her husband, and on her deathbed she had taken Declan's hand and she had said, "Your father never told me. I knew. But he never told me. Do not be that man, Declan. Not to whoever she turns out to be." He had been 29 years old then. He had been that man anyway. He had been that man for 22 more years. Not anymore, he thought. Not one more day. On the 6th day, he went into Elena's room on the 3rd floor. He did not rummage. He did not open drawers. He stood just inside the doorway and he looked. The bed was made. The books on her shelf were arranged by color, which surprised him and charmed him and made his throat feel tight. There was a single photograph on her nightstand, a younger Elena, maybe 19 years old, standing with her arm around an older woman by the water. The mother in the sun. Both of them laughing. He looked at the photograph for a long time. Then he left the room and closed the door and went downstairs and told Thomas to move his train to the 8th day. 8th day. I cannot wait 9. Boss. 8. Yes, boss. On the 7th day, he did something he had not done in over a decade. He wrote a letter. Not to Elena, to her mother. He wrote it 3 times before he was satisfied. It said in plain Italian, Signora Harper, my name is Declan Sullivan. Your daughter has worked in my house for 2 years. She has been the best and brightest thing in it. I am coming to Naples tomorrow by train. I would like very much to pay my respects to you and to speak if your daughter permits with her. I do not come with any claim on her. I come with an apology that is 2 years late and a question I have never had the courage to ask. If you prefer I not come to your door, send word to this number and I will turn around at the station. Yours with respect, Declan Sullivan. He sealed the letter. He gave it to Tomas. He told him to have it hand-delivered to the small house in Naples by 9 o'clock the next morning, before his own train had even left Milan. Boss? What? What if the answer comes back that she does not want you to come? Declan was quiet for a moment. Then I will have my answer, Tomas, and I will respect it. That is what men do. Yes, boss. The train left Milan at 6 in the morning on the 8th day. Declan sat in a first-class car by himself. He had one small bag. He wore a plain dark suit, not the power suits he wore to meetings, and no cufflinks of any kind. He had shaved himself that morning, something he had not done in years. He watched the countryside move past the window, and he did not think about Rinaldi's or contracts or any of the 1,000 matters that had made up his life for 30 years. He thought about a woman sitting in a garden with a book. At noon, his phone rang. It was Tomas. She got the letter, boss. And her mother read it. Her mother read it to her, in fact, because her mother does the reading in that house. And then the mother, Declan, the mother is the one who wrote back. What did she write? 4 words, boss. Tomas. She wrote, come for dinner, M. Declan closed his eyes. He leaned his head back against the seat. For a long moment, he did not speak. Boss, you still there? I am here, Tomas. Are you all right? I have not been all right in 2 years, Tomas. I am going to try to be all right tonight. Good luck, boss. Thank you. He arrived at the Naples station at 5 in the afternoon. He took a taxi, not a private car. He gave the driver the address. The driver was a round man in his 60s who whistled along with the radio and did not recognize the name of his passenger, and Declan was grateful for it. He watched the narrow streets move past, and his heart moved with them, heavy and slow and steady, and he thought about what he would say when the door opened. He thought about it for the entire 20-minute ride, and in the end he decided he would not plan the words. He would open his mouth, and he would let whatever had been held in his chest for 2 years come out. The taxi stopped at a small yellow house with a rose bush by the gate. Declan paid the driver. He stepped out. He stood on the sidewalk for a moment with his bag in his hand, and he looked at the door, and he took a breath, and he thought, this is the moment. This is the moment a man finds out who he really is. He walked up the path. He lifted his hand. He knocked. The door opened. It was not Elena. It was a very small, very thin woman in a long blue cardigan, with Elena's eyes set in an older face and a cane in her right hand and a strength in her posture that made her 5 feet of height feel like 6. She looked up at Declan Sullivan, the most feared man in Milan, the man entire governments had built files on, and she looked at him the way a grandmother looks at a boy who has come to ask for permission. Signor Sullivan, Signora Harper, you are taller than I expected. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. My husband was tall also. Come in. Your daughter, my daughter, said Maria Elena Harper, stepping back to let him pass, is in the garden. She does not know you are at the door. I did not tell her. I want to look at you first alone at my kitchen table for 20 minutes. Then I will decide if you may speak to her. Declan stared at her. Then very slowly he smiled a small, tired, real smile, the first real smile he had worn in a week. Signora. Yes. I understand completely. Good. Leave your shoes. The coffee is already on. And Declan Sullivan, boss of Milan, stepped over the threshold of a small yellow house in Naples and left his shoes by the door and followed a woman with a cane into her kitchen and sat down across her table like a boy being interviewed for a job he very much wanted. Maria Elena Harper poured him coffee. She sat down across from him. She folded her small hands on the table. So, she said, yes. You are the man my daughter has written to me about for 2 years. Declan's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. She has written to you about me. Every week, Signor Sullivan. Every week. Every single week for 2 years. A letter. By hand. She thinks I do not see what she is saying between the lines because I am old and my heart is weak. But I am old and my heart is weak and I see everything. He set the cup down. Signora, what did she say? The old woman looked at him for a long moment. Her eyes were exactly Elena's eyes. The same shape, the same steadiness, the same quiet fire underneath. She said, Maria Elena answered softly that her employer was the saddest man she had ever met, and that she had been trying very quietly for 2 years to find a way to make him smile. And that last week, she told me, Senior Sullivan, she had decided it could not be done, that she was going to accept a dinner with another man, because she was tired, and because the saddest man in the world would never look up. Declan could not speak. She reached across the table. She put her small, papery hand over his. Now, she said, look up. Declan looked up. He looked up at the small woman across the table, and he felt something inside his chest give way. Not break exactly, but open. Like a door that had been held shut for so long, the hinges had rusted, and now for no reason he could name, it had simply swung loose. Signora, I don't know what to say to that. Then drink your coffee, and do not say anything stupid. Men your age say stupid things when they are frightened, Senior Sullivan. I have watched men all my life, my husband, my brothers, my sons. God rest the one of them who did not live. When men are frightened, they talk too much, so drink. He drank. Good. Signora. Yes. Why did you let me in the door? Because I am dying, she said plainly. And because a dying woman has very little time to be polite. And because when I read your letter this morning, Senior Sullivan, I recognized something in it. Do you know what I recognized? No, Signora. I recognized a man who has been very lonely for a very long time. He put his cup down. Yes. So I let you in, not for you, for her. Because if you are the man in your letter, then maybe you are finally ready to be the man my daughter has been waiting for. And if you are not well, I will know before the coffee is cold, and I will send you back to Milan before she sees your face. I understand. Do you? Yes, Signora. Good. Now, tell me about yourself. Not what you do for money. I do not care what you do for money. Tell me what you were like when you were 7 years old. The question hit him in a place he had not been touched in 50 years. 7, he said slowly. Yes, 7. Signora, I have not thought about being 7 in a very long time. Then think now, slowly. Take your time, I am not in a hurry. Death is, but I am not. Declan Sullivan closed his eyes, and when he opened them, he began to talk. He told her about the house in Brooklyn, where he had grown up before his father had moved the family back to Milan. He told her about the fig tree in the yard and the neighbor's dog that had bitten him once and that he had, out of a 7-year-old stubborn pride, refused to cry in front of. He told her about his mother, who had read him books about knights and dragons, and how for 1 year of his life, between the ages of 6 and 7, he had believed with his entire heart that he would grow up to be a knight. He told her how the knight had slowly over the years been replaced by something else, something harder, something his father had taught him not by speaking of it, but by example. He told her about the night his father had taken him at 13 to a quiet room where a man had been tied to a chair, and how his father had said, "This is what we do." Son and Declan had not asked what this was, because he had already known, he had already understood. And something in the boy who had believed in knights had closed its eyes and gone to sleep and never woken up. Until a certain morning 2 years ago, when a young woman named Elena Harper had come to his house with a small suitcase and a reference letter from an agency, and she had set a vase of fresh flowers on his breakfast table, and for the first time in 44 years, the boy who had believed in knights had stirred in his sleep. He stopped talking. He had not meant to say any of that. He had not meant to say half of it. He looked down at his hands on the table and he realized they were shaking very slightly, and he realized also that he had not told any of that story to any living person in his entire life. Maria Elena Harper was quiet for a long time. Then she said softly, "Senior Sullivan." "Yes, my daughter is in the garden. The door is through the kitchen, past the yellow curtain, and down 3 stone steps. Go to her now, please, before I lose my nerve." He stared at her. "You are letting me." "I am letting you go. And Senior Sullivan." "Yes, Signora. When you speak to her, start with the 7-year-old boy, Not with the man in the suit. She has seen enough of the man in the suit for 2 years. Let her meet the boy. Declan stood up. His legs felt unsteady. He nodded to her once deeply, the way a man nods to a priest, and he walked past the yellow curtain and down the 3 stone steps, and he came out into a small walled garden with a lemon tree in the corner and an old iron chair beside it. And in the chair with a book closed on her lap and her feet tucked up under her was Elena. She had heard the door. She was already looking up. When she saw him, she did not stand. She did not speak. She simply closed her eyes for a moment, as if she needed to check whether he was real, and then she opened them again, and he was still there. You came. I came. My mother let you in. Your mother is terrifying, Elena. A small surprised laugh escaped her. She put her hand over her mouth as if to take it back. Yes, she is. She made me tell her about being 7 years old. She does that. She made me drink coffee. She does that also. She said if I said a stupid thing, she would send me back to Milan before the coffee was cold. And did you say a stupid thing, Mr. Sullivan? He took a slow step toward her, not close, not crowding, just one step. Elena. Yes. I would like, if you will allow it, to not be Mr. Sullivan for the rest of this conversation. I would like to be Declan. Just Declan, if that is all right. She looked at him for a long moment. Her eyes were very tired. There were small dark circles under them that he had not seen in 2 years of mornings, and it broke him a little to see them because it meant she had not been sleeping either. Declan. Yes. Sit down, please. You are too tall, standing up. He sat down in a small wooden chair across from her. He put his hands on his knees the way a boy sits in a principal's office. And for a long moment, neither of them spoke at all. The lemon tree rustled above them, and somewhere in the next garden over a dog barked twice and stopped. How is your mother? He said finally. She is dying, Declan. I know. She has maybe 4 months, maybe 6. The doctor was here yesterday. He was gentle about it. She was not. She laughed at him. She seems the type to laugh at a doctor. She is exactly the type. I am very sorry, Elena. Thank you. I am sorry for many things. I know. A pause. Elena, I received a phone call from Giovanni Rinaldi the morning you left. She looked up sharply. The father. The father, he did not know what his son had done. He has handled it. His son is finished in that particular way. He will not come near you again. Not him, not anyone in that family. I have Giovanni's word, and I have a pouch of things from his estate that tells me the word is good. I did not want you to sit in this garden for 3 weeks wondering. I wanted you to know. That is the first thing I came here to say. She nodded slowly. Her shoulders dropped about an inch as if something she had been carrying in them for 8 days had come loose. Thank you. That is the easy thing I came to say. Yes, I assumed so. He laughed once softly in spite of himself. Elena. Yes. Do you remember the first morning you came to the house? 2 years ago, in March. Of course I remember. Do you remember what I said to you? You said, welcome to the Sullivan residence. Maria will show you your duties. Do not enter my study without knocking. That was all. That was all. Yes. Do you know what I wanted to say? No. I wanted to say, who sent you here? Because I looked at you standing in the foyer with your small suitcase and your careful, polite face, and I thought, this is a trick. This is a woman someone has planted in my house to be kind to me, and I am being set up for something. No one is this calm, this is early in the morning without an agenda. I was sure of it. I was absolutely sure of it for the first 3 months. Elena blinked. You thought I was a spy. I thought you were a spy. Declan, I am telling you the truth, Elena. I am telling you the whole truth because your mother told me to start with the 7-year-old boy, and she did not mean literally the 7-year-old boy. She meant the part of me that tells the truth. So I am telling you, for 3 months, I had a man follow you on your days off. I had your apartment checked. I had your references verified by 2 separate agencies. I had your cousin Paula investigated. I had this house investigated. I even had your mother's medical records pulled, which I am now sitting across from you in her garden very deeply ashamed of. Elena stared at him. 3 months. 3 months. And then after 3 months, my man came to me with his final report. And he said, "Boss, she is exactly what she appears to be. She is a young woman from Naples whose mother is sick, who is trying to send money home, who goes to church on Sunday and reads novels on the bus. There is nothing to find. She is clean." And I said, "Then why are you still watching her, Paolo? Stop. Stop watching her. She is not a threat. She is a person." You called off the surveillance. I called it off that same afternoon. And you never told me. I never told you. I never told anyone until right now. Thomas does not know. No one knew. And for 2 years after that afternoon, Elena, I did not have one more person to watch you. I did not read your mail. I did not check your phone. Nothing. Because I had decided in that moment that you were the one thing in my life that I was not going to ruin by touching. He stopped. He looked at the lemon tree instead of at her. "And I kept that promise," he said quietly, "until the night you said you had a date. And then I broke it in about 9 seconds. Because a boy named Marco Rinaldi smiled at you in a coffee shop, and I lost my mind." Elena was very quiet for a long time. "Declan." "Yes." "Look at me, please." He looked at her. "I knew," she said softly. "Knew what?" "About Paolo, about the first 3 months. I knew." His stomach went cold. "Elena." "I knew the first week. He was not a very good tale, Declan. He wore the same brown jacket every day. He sat at the same cafe across from my bus stop. My cousin Paula spotted him on day 4 and called me laughing. She said, 'You have a shadow, Elena.' I asked the agency about him. They said they would not say, but they said it in a way that told me. You stayed anyway." "I stayed anyway." "Why?" She smiled, then a small, sad, crooked smile. "Because I was 26 years old, Declan. And I was frightened, and I was alone, and my mother was already sick then, though not as sick, and the job paid more than any job I had ever had. And because on the second day in that house, I watched a man in a very expensive suit eat his breakfast alone at a table long enough for 12 people, and I thought, whoever he is, whatever he does, he is lonelier than I am. And a woman who is lonely will forgive a lot of things in a man who is lonelier. That is why I stayed." He could not speak. He looked down at his hands. He felt something warm fall onto the back of his wrist and realized with a strange, distant surprise that it was a tear. His own. He had not cried in 31 years. He had not cried at his father's funeral. He had not cried at his mother's. He had not cried through any of the things that had happened between those 2 dates and this afternoon. He cried now, quietly, without sound, a few tears only. He did not wipe them. He did not apologize for them. He let them fall onto the back of his hand, and he sat there across from her, and he let her see. "Declan." "Yes. I wrote to my mother about you every week for 2 years. She told me. She told you just now at the kitchen table." "God." "She told me," Declan said, and his voice cracked very slightly, "that she thought her daughter had been trying to make the saddest man in the world smile. For 2 years. She had no right to tell you that. She had every right, Elena. She is your mother and she is dying, and she wanted to give me one last chance to stop being a fool. I will be grateful to her for as long as I live." Elena put her hands over her face for a moment. When she took them away, her eyes were wet too. "I thought I had made him up." "Made who up?" "The man underneath the suit. I thought for 2 years, I thought maybe I am imagining him. Maybe there is no one under there. Maybe I am a silly housekeeper with a crush on the quiet of a man who is simply a quiet man, and there is nothing inside, and I am making up a story." "Elena, there was a man under the suit. There has been a man under the suit for 2 years, trying very hard to stay still, so he would not frighten you." "Why would you frighten me?" "Because of what I am, Elena." "Declan." "Yes. I have known what you are since the 4th day. I was not stupid. I am not stupid now." "The 4th day." "The 4th day, a man came to the house with a black eye and a broken hand, and you sat with him in the study for 2 hours, and when he left he was weeping, and you gave him an envelope, and I thought, I do not know what that was, but that was not a normal employer. I knew. I have always known. And you stayed, and I stayed. Why shall we? I have already told you why." A long silence. Then Declan, in a voice he did not quite recognize as his own, said, "Elena, I am 51 years old. I am a widower to a life I never actually had. I have spent 30 years becoming a man I am not entirely sure I wanted to become. I have more money than any one person should have, and almost no one to give it to, and almost no reason to keep earning it. I came to this garden today because I wanted to tell you plainly, like a man, the way your mother told me to, that I have been in love with you for almost 2 years, and I was too much of a coward to say it, and a Rinaldi boy was about to take away the only woman I have ever really wanted because of that cowardice, and I could not live with that. I could not. He stopped. He looked at her. I am not asking you for anything, Elena. I am not asking you to come back to Milan. I am not asking you to love me back. I am asking you only to let me tell you once out loud in your mother's garden, so that when I am an old man in a big house, I will at least know that I said it. That is all. Elena did not speak for a long time. Her hands were folded on the closed book in her lap. Her eyes were on the lemon tree. Declan? Yes. Ask me something. Ask you what? Anything. Ask me anything. Ask me the thing you have wanted to ask me for 2 years and never asked. He swallowed. Elena, was there ever a morning in those 2 years when you looked up at me across the kitchen and you wanted me to say something? And I did not. Every morning, Declan. Every morning. Every single morning for 2 years. Elena. Yes. I have come a very long way, and I am very tired, and your mother's coffee was very strong. And I think if you do not object, I am going to sit in this chair in your mother's garden and not say anything else for a little while. Then sit, Declan. Yes. And Declan. Yes. She reached across the small distance between them. She put her hand palm up on the arm of his chair. I'm not going to say anything either, she said, but I am going to leave my hand there in case you want to put yours on top of it. That is all. No promises, no decisions, just a hand in a garden between two people who have waited a long time. Declan Sullivan looked down at her open hand, and very slowly, with a kind of care he had not used on anything in 30 years, he placed his own on top of it, and he left it there, and neither of them spoke again for a long, long time. Somewhere inside the house, a small, thin woman in a blue cardigan was standing at the kitchen window, holding the yellow curtain aside with one papery hand. She watched the two of them in the garden for a moment. She watched the hand land on the hand. She watched the shoulders of the tall, sad man finally come down from where they had been held tight and high for 30 years. And Maria Elena Harper, whose own heart was tired and whose own time was short, let the curtain fall closed and turned back to her kitchen and smiled a very small, very tired, very satisfied smile. Finally, she said to no one in her own language, in her own kitchen, in her own house. Finally. The hand in the garden stayed where it was for a long time. Neither of them moved it. The lemon tree dropped a leaf under the stone between their chairs, and still neither of them moved, as if the smallest shift would break something that had taken 2 years to build. It was Elena finally who spoke. Declan. Yes. I have to tell you something, and you are not going to like it. He felt his fingers tighten just a little against hers. He made them loosen again. Tell me. I cannot come back to Milan with you. Not now, not this week, not next month. Elena. Listen, please, I am not saying what you think I am saying. I am saying my mother has 4 months. Maybe 6. The doctor was very honest. I am not leaving this house until it is done. I will not leave her alone with Paola and a nurse to die because a man in Milan has finally decided to speak. Do you understand? He exhaled slowly. Yes, I understand. Do you? Elena, I came here today knowing I would probably be going back tonight, alone on the same train. I did not come to take you anywhere. I came to say a thing I should have said a long time ago. Whatever you need, 4 months, 6 months, a year, I will wait. You say that now? I will say it in 4 months also. Men say that. I am not other men, Elena. I am the man who waited 2 years in silence. I can wait 4 more months with a phone in my pocket and a train ticket in my drawer. She looked at him for a long moment, then very quietly. All right, all right, all right. We will try this slowly. You will go back to Milan. You will write to me. I will write to you. You will come to Naples on the weekends you can. And when it is time, I will decide what comes next. Not before. I cannot promise you what comes next, Declan. I can only promise you that I will not lie to you between now and then. That is more than I deserve. It is exactly what you deserve. Not more, not less. He almost smiled. Your mother told me not to say anything stupid. I have a feeling she would say the same to you if she heard that. My mother would say I am already being too kind to you. Yes, probably. A small, real laugh passed between them. The first one. It was a tiny thing, barely more than a breath, but it cracked the air and let something lighter in. And then from the house behind them, a voice. Elena, Elena, come. It was Paula, the cousin. Her voice was thin and high, the way voices get when they are trying not to break. Elena's head snapped up. Her hand left his in a single fluid motion, and she was running across the stone toward the kitchen door, and Declan was on his feet and following before he had decided to. Maria Elena Harper was in her chair by the window. She was still upright. Her hands were folded in her lap, but her eyes were closed and her head was leaned back. And for one terrible second, Declan thought they had come too late. Then she opened one eye. I am not dead, she said in Italian and without moving. Stop looking at me like that, Elena. I only wanted to sit down. Elena was already on her knees by the chair, one hand on her mother's wrist, feeling for the pulse. Mama! Elena! Mama, please do not do that again. I sat down. I am allowed to sit down in my own kitchen. You called Paula as if you were... I called Paula because I wanted to see if the tall man in my garden had already made my daughter cry. I see that he has not. That is good. Declan stood in the doorway. He did not know what to do with his hands. Paula was standing against the counter with her own hand pressed against her chest, breathing hard. Maria Elena looked past her daughter. Her eyes found Declan. You. Yes, Signora. Come here, closer. He crossed the kitchen. He stopped a foot from her chair. He did not know if he was supposed to kneel, so he did not. He simply stood and he waited. Give me your hand, she said. He gave her his hand. She took it between both of her small, papery ones. She looked at it. She turned it over. She studied the palm the way an old woman in a village studies a palm, not because she believed in fortunes, but because a hand told you things a face did not. This is a hand that has hurt people, Signor Sullivan. Yes, Signora. Many people. Yes. Will it hurt my daughter? No, Signora. Say it again. Hey, no, Signora. It will not hurt your daughter. Not while I am alive. Not by my own action and not by any other man's. I will give my life before it touches her. That is my word. A man's word? Yes. A Sullivan's word? Yes. She looked at his hand a moment longer. Then she lifted it very slowly and she placed it on top of Elena's hand, which was still resting on her wrist. She covered both their hands with her own. 3 hands stacked on the thin arm of an old woman in a kitchen chair. There, she said. Now it is witnessed. Now it is a thing. Elena was crying quietly, without sound. Declan felt her shoulder shake once against his side, and he did not move his hand. Mama. Hush, Elena. Mama, you cannot. I can do anything I want, Elena. I am dying. I told the doctor yesterday I was going to do exactly what I wanted for the rest of the time, and he laughed at me, and I told him he should be careful because I have outlived 3 doctors already. Now stop crying. You are getting tears on my cardigan. Elena laughed through the tears. It came out a strange, broken sound, half sob, half laugh, and Declan felt something in his chest unfastened that had been buckled tight for 30 years. Signor Sullivan, said Maria Elena. Yes, Signora. You will stay tonight in the spare room upstairs. Paula will make up the bed. You will have dinner with us. My daughter will cook because my daughter cooks better than anyone in this family, though she will tell you otherwise. Tomorrow morning you will have coffee with me again, and we will talk more. Then you will go back to Milan on the afternoon train because a man like you has work to do that does not wait, and a woman like my daughter has a mother to sit with that also does not wait. You will come back in 2 weeks. Then 2 weeks after that. Is this agreed? Yes, Signora. Elena, is this agreed? Yes, Mama. Good, Paula. Bring the wine from the cabinet. Paula, who had been standing against the counter with her hand still on her chest, let out a laugh that was more relief than humor and moved. A bottle came down. 4 glasses. Maria Elena was pouring them herself within the minute, her small hand steadier than it had any right to be, And within 5 minutes, Declan Sullivan, the most feared man in Milan, the man who had sat at tables with senators and bishops and kings of industry, was drinking table wine with three women in a small Naples kitchen, and he could not remember the last time he had felt so completely out of his depth, and he could not remember the last time he had felt so completely at home. The night passed the way such nights pass. Elena did cook. It was a simple pasta with tomatoes from the garden and a piece of fish Paula ran out to buy from the corner, and it was the best meal Declan had eaten in a decade. Maria Elena sat at the head of the small table and told stories about her husband, who had been a ship's cook, and her father, who had been a shoemaker, and her own mother, who had been a seamstress in a little shop in Palermo before the war. Declan listened more than he spoke. When he did speak, he spoke softly and only about small things, the way his own mother had made bread on Sundays, the smell of his father's pipe, the book about nights. He did not speak of Milan at all. Milan, for one evening, was a very long way away. When the meal was finished, Maria Elena was tired. Paula helped her to her room. Elena and Declan sat in the kitchen for a while, not saying very much, drying the dishes together. His suit jacket had come off an hour ago. His sleeves were rolled up. He held a plate and she handed him the towel, and it was the strangest, most ordinary thing he had done in his whole adult life. Declan, yes, you are very bad at drying dishes. I have not done it since I was a boy. I can tell. I am sorry. Do not be sorry, just do not break that one. It was my grandmother's. I will give it my full attention. She laughed. It was a real laugh this time. Not small, not sad. A proper laugh, the kind he had heard her make in the kitchen 2 years ago through a closed door when she was on the phone with a friend and did not know he could hear. That laugh had lived in his head for 2 years. To stand in a kitchen and be the one it was aimed at was a strange and holy thing. Elena. Yes. I am going to say something, and then I am going to go to bed before I say anything stupid on top of it. All right. Whatever happens in the next 6 months, however long your mother has, whatever you decide to do when it is over, I want you to know this evening, this kitchen, this plate your grandmother gave you, this has been the best night of my life. I want you to know that because I want it said out loud. So that later, if the rest of it goes wrong, neither one of us will be able to say, we never had this. We had it. It is ours. Nothing can take it back. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she stepped forward, very close, and she rose up on her toes and she kissed him once very softly on the cheek. The kiss of a woman, not a maid. A kiss that said, I am choosing this, not I owe you this. Good night, Declan. Good night, Elena. He went up to the spare room. He lay on the small bed. He stared at the ceiling for a long time, and for the first time in perhaps 20 years, Declan Sullivan fell asleep without a weight on his chest. The train back to Milan the next afternoon was a different train from the one he had taken down. The countryside was the same. His seat was the same. He himself was not. Tomas met him at the station. Tomas took one look at his face and did not ask a single question. He simply said, "Welcome home, boss," and picked up his bag and drove him back to the big house in silence. The months that followed were not easy. They were not supposed to be. Maria Elena Harper had 4 months, and then she had 5, and in the 6th month she began to fade, and Elena stayed by her side day and night, and Declan came on weekends and sat in the kitchen and read the newspaper while Paula cooked. And sometimes he sat in the chair by Maria Elena's bed and held her hand while she slept. Sometimes she woke up and teased him. Once she asked him to sing. He told her he could not sing. She told him to sing anyway. He sang her a small piece of an old song his mother had sung to him in English, badly off key, and Maria Elena smiled with her eyes closed and said, "You are right. You cannot sing. It is beautiful anyway." She died on a Tuesday morning in October with Elena's hand in one of her hands and Declan's hand in the other. She did not say anything at the end. She did not have to. She looked at them both once slowly, and then she closed her eyes, and then she was gone. Elena cried for 3 days. Declan did not leave Naples. He slept in the spare room. He helped Paula with the arrangements. He paid for the funeral and for the plot next to her husband, and he did not announce it, and he did not make a show of it, and when Elena tried to thank him, he said only, "She was witness to a thing. It is the least I can do for her. Please." Elena came back to Milan in the last week of October. She did not come back as a maid. She came back as herself. in her own clothes with her own suitcase, and she stayed in a small apartment Declan had arranged for her 3 blocks from the mansion. Her own apartment, in her own name, paid for by her own salary from a real estate office, where Tomas's cousin had found her a job as an office manager. She had refused flatly to take money from Declan that she had not earned. He had argued for about 6 minutes, and then he had stopped, because he was learning slowly that Elena Harper did not lose arguments about her own dignity. She came to dinner to the mansion 3 nights a week, sometimes 4. Sometimes she stayed the night in a room that had been a guest room and was slowly, piece by piece, becoming something else. Her books appeared on a shelf in the study. A second toothbrush appeared in the bathroom. A pair of her shoes appeared by the front door, and no one, not Tomas, not Maria, not any of the staff who had served in that house for 20 years, said a single word about it, because every single one of them had known long before their boss had that this was how the story was meant to end. On a cold morning in January, Declan came down the stairs to find Elena in the kitchen, in one of his shirts, squeezing oranges for juice, her hair in the same simple twist she had worn on Saturdays for 2 years. She looked up at him when he came in. "Good morning, Mr. Sullivan. Don't you start. Your coffee is on the table, sir. No sugar." "Elena." "Yes, I love you." She stopped. The glass in her hand stilled. She set it down very carefully on the counter. "That is the first time you have said that in my kitchen. It will not be the last." "Good. Elena." "Yes. Will you marry me?" She did not cry. She did not gasp. She did not even look surprised. She looked at him across the kitchen, across 2 years of silence and 1 year of finally speaking, and she smiled the small, slow smile of a woman who had known the question was coming and had already decided her answer a long, long time ago. "Yes, Declan. Yes, yes." "Elena, come here, you fool. Your coffee is getting cold." He crossed the kitchen. He crossed 2 years. He crossed 3 floors of a mansion and 1 train ride to Naples and 1 small yellow house and 1 dying mother's blessing. And every single morning he had ever watched her set a vase of flowers on the breakfast table without saying a word. He crossed all of it in 4 steps, and he took Elena Harper in his arms, in his own kitchen, and he held her the way a man holds the thing he has been afraid of losing his whole life. They were married in the spring at the small church in Naples where Maria Elena had been baptized. It was a quiet ceremony. Paula was the only witness on Elena's side. Tomas, who cried openly and without apology for the first time in his life, was the only witness on Declan's. Giovanni Rinaldi sent a card. The card said in his own careful hand, "May your house be full of children and your table be full of bread." G. Declan framed it. On their wedding night, Elena fell asleep with her head on Declan's chest, and he lay awake listening to her breathe, and he thought about the first morning she had come to his house with a small suitcase, and about every morning between then and this one, and about the fact that he had almost lost her to a boy in a coffee shop because he had been too afraid to look up. He did not almost lose her. He did look up. He would spend the rest of his life being grateful for that one morning in that kitchen when a quiet woman had laughed softly into a phone and said 4 words that had broken him open and saved him. "I have a date tonight," the most dangerous sentence ever spoken in the Sullivan mansion. And the best.